Chapter 9. Rhys. I cursed as I tried to tie the stupid tie. After the 5th attempt, I just let it hang around my neck and slammed my locker door. Rye, I groaned when I heard that high-pitched giggle. Marcy, I faked a smile. How are you? She giggled more and brought me closer to her by pulling the ends of my untied tie. I'm fine, handsome. How are you? She purred. I stepped back and pulled my tie out of her hands. She pouted. What do you need, Marcy? I asked in irritation before looking at my watch. Great, I still had 10 minutes left with this annoying little girl. Now, was that harsh? Yeah, but I had a reason for being harsh. About a year and a half ago, after I realized that my mate was not coming anytime soon, I decided to go on a date with this girl that was a friend of a friend's. This was probably the biggest mistake of my life. Not only did I have a horrible time, I also gained a stalker. Ever since that day, she thought we were a couple and that she was the next alpha female. Lately, she's been extra crazy. She's been telling anyone that would listen, that we were getting married soon. Another female couldn't even look at me without her getting psycho. She wolf on me. If there's nothing you need, Marcy, I have to get going. But Rhys? She whined. I want to spend time with you. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Or do you want to brag about that fantasy you have about being my mate? She pouted even more. Rye, that's not true. I am your mate. The psycho tried to kiss me, but I dodged her and walked down the hall. As soon as I turned the corner, I smelled a sweet smell and caught something soft. He had tousled light brown, almost blonde, hair, a face like an angel, and for what I could tell, a body like a god. He must have caught me because I was still in his arms and he was partially bent down, like that famous picture of the couple kiss after the war was over. I blushed when I realized I was ogling him. He growled and I gasped when he caressed my blushing cheek. Beautiful, he murmured. I pushed against his broad shoulders because I totally did not want to get caught in a compromising position on the first day of my new school. He narrowed his eyes and grasped my waist tighter. Mine, he growled. My eyes widened. I'm not yours. I don't even know you. He looked away and pulled me up so I was standing straight. I fixed my uniform, blushed again when I felt his eyes on me. Thank you. You know, for saving me from an embarrassing moment. He continued to stare. Okay, I'm just going to go now. I started to walk away when a calloused hand grabbed my wrist. Name? He whispered. I narrowed my eyes on the hand that was currently held hostage. What's your name? He cleared his throat and released me. My name is. The bell rang at that moment, and I cursed. I quickly ran away from my savior when students started to fill the hallway. Thanks again. Wait. He sounded desperate, and I could hear him pushing people out of the way to get to me. I didn't look back, because if I did, I would get lost in his mesmerizing gray eyes. Hey guys, I finally updated. Just wanted to let you know that updates will be coming more frequently after the chaos in my life calms down. When that happens, I will be updating like crazy. Until then, here's a small chapter to satisfy you until the next update. Also, I just wanted to let you know that the more the story progresses, the longer the chapter will be. I read your comments about how short the chapters are, and I want to reassure you that there are longer chapters coming. The story just needs to progress a little more before you can get those long chapters. It's not your fault. I'm just the queen of cliffhangers and want to keep you guys on the edge of your seats. Comment, how's the story going so far? Like it? Had. Chapter 10. Rhys. Theo. I remained pacing in the hallways even after everyone entered their classrooms. I couldn't stop thinking about my mate. I cursed, fully believing that fate was trying to keep us apart. She was close, so close. I growled and started punching a random locker over and over again until I felt a hand on my shoulder. I shrugged the hand off me and ignored whoever was trying to get my attention. Alpha? A hesitant voice said. I turned and found a member of my pack staring at the floor, purposely avoiding my eyes. What is it? I asked harshly. The guy flinched. He stammered. I don't. I growled and the dude backed away from me, spit it out. He cleared his throat. Alpha, I just wanted to inform you that the principal is coming this way. He heard a complaint from my history teacher. I wanted to warn you before he caught you. I stared at his familiar face. He looked young, probably about the age of a freshman. I know I've seen this kid before. Are you Jack Keen's son? The boy flinched and nodded. Jack Keen was my father's military commander who was found guilty of betraying his pack and divulging private information about our military tactics to hunt after he no longer had access to wolf intel. Sad, really. Not only did he screw up his life, he also ended up making his family the black sheeps, ironic of the pack. Most of the pack steer clear of the Keens because they feel that they are just like Jack. I say most of the pack because I don't really believe that the Keens are evil. They shouldn't be judged based on a mistake they didn't even commit. This kid shouldn't be defined by the mistakes of his father. I realized that I was so lost in my thoughts that the kid started sweating and shaking, like he was waiting for some sort of punishment. I stepped forward and the kid flinched backward. I raised an eyebrow before clapping him on the back, my demeanor calm despite my wolf's anxiety and desperation to find his mate. Thanks, kid. I appreciate the warning. His posture relaxed and he released the breath he was holding. I started walking. What's your name, kid? He ran to catch up with me. Alexander, but most people call me Alex. How's school so far, Alex? I asked. Yeah, I was Alpha and didn't really need to be talking to this kid, but I figured he needed some guidance. High school is hard for irregular kids. Being A-were makes high school especially hard. Good sir, he said, falling in step with me. I chuckled. Call me Rhys. Sir is for my father. I looked at my watch. Sorry, Alex. I have to get going. It was nice talking to you. Goodbye, Alpha. He bared his neck and watched me leave. I rubbed my hands. Now that this little distraction is over, I can finally look for my mate. Thioethawethio. Finally. I found her. My wolf nearly howled in joy as we watched her enter our classroom. That's her, I whispered, and immediately, my friends turned to watch her talk to our teacher. She's so pretty. Mia, Matt's mate exclaimed. Matt nodded in agreement before whispering in her ear. Alpha, is that really our Luna? Everly, my third asked with excitement. I think so, I murmured. Now that she was closer, I could smell her sweet vanilla perfume. Our eyes met from across the room and I swear my heart stopped. Those violet eyes stole my breath away. Rhys, Matt murmured, I think that you might be one of the kids of that woman who came to your house seeking refugee. I looked at my mate and watched as she thanked the teacher before walking past my pack and taking a seat in the back, her cheeks a adorable pink color. I think she is, I replied dismissively. The woman said she had an older daughter and younger son. After my initial shock of having the mate of the most powerful alpha in the world bow down to me was. Chapter 11. Kassi. Today has been the weirdest first day of school in my whole entire life. And I've had a lot of first days of school in my life. First it started with that Greek god saving me from some serious back problems, then I ran away from that same Greek god like a chicken with its head cut off, and now, when I walked into my English class, the Greek god Hadi and his posse of beautiful people are staring at me like I was an alien with two heads. I silently watched as they murmured among themselves. I saw a blonde guy whisper in a pretty dark-haired girl's ear before she giggled. The Greek god Hadi was talking with a guy with reddish-brown hair while a girl with a long blonde bob was filing her nails. Can this group get any more gorgeous? I mean, yeah, at my old school there was bound to be a handful of beautiful people, but there was never this many in one school before. Suddenly, my savior looked at me and so did the rest of his group. I blushed and turned my attention to my notebook. I heard a chair scrape against the floor and then there was a shadow blocking my light. When I looked up, I saw the pretty dark-haired girl standing in front of me, giving me a warm smile. She was even more beautiful than I thought. Her jet black hair was long with natural waves, her eyes were a warm greenish hazel, she was tall, way taller than me. She had the same uniform as I did, but somehow, she made me feel frumpy. Hi, she greeted, taking a seat next to me. I nervously looked at the gorgeous group she came from and saw that they were all watching her. The blonde guy she was giggling with earlier was especially watchful of her. Hello, I said quietly. My name's Mia. What's yours? Kassi, I smiled gently at her. She made me feel welcomed and less nervous about my first day of school. Pretty name, she said. Is it short for anything? I grimaced. Yeah. She waited for me to say more, but I kept my lips closed tightly. There was no way I was telling her my full name. Been there, done that. And guess what? The last time I told someone my full name, I was humiliated until Mom moved us to a new town. Well, she gave me another friendly smile and changed the subject. I hope you like reading novels because that's all Mr. Street gives us. FYI, I suggest that you read because he gives us questions that we can't use Spark Notes. She laughed, a light twinkly sound. I couldn't help but join her. Mia. A deep voice asked quietly. Class is about to start. I looked up to see the blonde guy standing in front of us. His was at least 3 feet tall with a lean, muscular body, and the pretty ice blue eyes. Mia gave him a look. So, your seat is over there. He pointed to her previous seat, the one she was sitting with him before. She laughed and stood before patting his cheek softly. I know that, Maddie, but I'm sitting here today. She paused with my new best friend. His eyes softened, but she laughed softly and kissed his cheek. Stop whining, pretty boy. She turned to me. Kassi, this is my boyfriend Matt. Matt, this is Kassi. He smiled at me. Hello, he said politely. Matt, a deep voice said from behind both Mia and Matt. I shivered and my eyes immediately locked with gray eyes. What? Matt turned, his arms wrapped tightly around Mia. Mr. Street is waiting for you to sit down. He turned and saw Mr. Street tapping his foot impatiently while giving him a pointed look. Matt grinned sheepishly before releasing Mia, but not before giving her a quick kiss. Mia shook her head and sat down, grinning. You could have sat with your boyfriend, Mia, I said politely, not offended in the slightest. She gave me a smile. Don't worry about it. He needs to learn to spend some time away from me. She came closer. He tends to have separation anxiety. We laughed and I heard a growl coming from where Mia's group was sitting. I watched as my gorgeous savior was grinning, the boy with the reddish-brown hair was laughing, the girl with the blonde bob was smirking, and finally, Matt looked annoyed and grumpy. Chapter 12. Rhys. Friends. I hated that word, especially when it comes out of my mate's mouth. She wants to be my friend, and even though I've only known her for a couple of hours, I feel like we should skip the friend stage and go straight into the couple stage. That's my opinion, but I may be biased. My inner thoughts were interrupted when the bell rang, signaling it was the end of the day. I sighed and unknotted my tie before leaving the classroom and walking toward my car. I suddenly stopped and hid behind a pillar. I watched as Kassi climb into an old Land Rover and drive out of the parking lot quickly. I stayed there until a voice spooked me. Ain't that a little creepy, Alpha? Stalking? Meaning watching an innocent girl? Everly smirked at me. Shut up, I mumbled before turning around. The whole gang was standing there, giving me amused looks. I scowled and started walking to my car. I'm leaving with or without you. I heard a few chuckles before I felt them following. I jumped in the driver's seat and started the car. Matt jumped into the passenger's seat while Mia, Everly, and Sean sat in the back. I reversed the car and drove out of the school parking lot, careful to avoid hitting all the lingering students. What an interesting day, Matt yawned and stretched. Can't believe Marcy. I heard a growl and instantly knew Everly was not happy. Really, that's who you want to talk about? That crazy psycho bit. Mia covered her mouth before she could finish, cursing like a sailor. Really, Matt? You had to bring up the one person that makes Ever's blood boil. Everly ripped Mia's hand away from her mouth and started cussing at Matt. Her eyes were glowing a bright blue and his were starting to glow too. I pulled over to the side of the road and put my hazard signal on. Enough, my wolf, and I growled. Everyone in the car flinched, their eyes immediately returning to their normal hues. With bowed heads, they murmured an apology. You, I said, pointing at Everly, are my damn third. Show some respect to your beta. I will not allow you disrespecting anyone in the pack. What happened today in the cafe and car will not be repeated again. Do you understand? Yes, Alpha. And you, I pointed at Matt, need to control yourself better. You're the beta, and if you can't handle disrespect from one pack member, then I really shouldn't have picked you as beta. Best friend or not. He flinched but said nothing. There was silence for a long time. Since we lived about 45 minutes outside of town, the silence made the drive excruciatingly long. I opted to move the pack closer to town, but my father and grandfather thought it would be best to remain outside of the bustling city. Being farther away from town meant more privacy against prying eyes. They were even trying to convince the man who owned an acre of land 15 minutes away to the right of us to sell his land so that we could buy it. Too bad the old hermit is adamant about keep all that land to himself.